Let's talk about it. Should you learn to code in 2024? I've seen this debate going around the internet quite a bit, but everyone I heard talking about this is a programmer talking to programmer beginners about getting a programmer's job. And I want to share a different perspective. Okay, so let's talk about the guy that is making every programmer on Reddit cry.
These are amazing times because we're at the beginning of a new industrial revolution.
This is Mr. Nvidia, now in the top 5 most valuable companies in the world. This guy recently said things that really got some programmers worried, some programmers skeptic. Whatever he's doing, he's being controversial.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So he was talking about how for the past 15 years or so, every expert used to recommend that every kid and everyone should learn programming. But it turns out it's almost exactly the opposite. Or to put it in his own words,
it's almost exactly the opposite.
So yeah, he's saying that the goal of technology is that coding and programming should be as simple as human language.
It is our job to create computing technology such that nobody has to program, and that the programming language is human.
And then he closes with these thoughts.
Everybody in the world is now a programmer. This is the miracle. This is the miracle of artificial intelligence. You now have a computer that will do what you tell it to do, to help automate your work, to amplify your productivity, to make you more efficient.
This changes everything. You heard Mr. Nvidia.
Everybody in the world is now a programmer.
You are now a programmer. Congratulations. But how do you use your new powers? Now, the things he said about how AI can help us write code, I've personally experienced because I've been using AI for writing code quite a lot recently. So just to even show you what's possible, here's a quick demo of an app that AI helped me code. Here I write some text, then I choose a number, and then I hit this button and starts loading. And there we go, take a look at the results. Isn't that cool? If it wasn't for AI, I wouldn't have been able to build this, and now I use it all the time for my YouTube videos. If you want to see some other demos of cool things that I built with AI code, you can join my free community in the description, but for now, let's keep going with the video. So these tools that I've been building for myself have really helped me streamline my process in my business, in my content creation workflow, in a bunch of really cool ways. Like you, I used to describe myself as a non-programmer, but now with AI writing code for me, I can easily build awesome mini apps for myself. What makes AI coding so powerful is that it helps you become what it used to be called a full stack developer. This is just a nerdy term to essentially refer to someone who is a programming generalist. This means that in programming, someone who is a full stack developer doesn't necessarily need a team, meaning that they can bring an app from idea to completion all by themselves without the need of anyone's help. Now, what is so cool about AI is that it turns you into a Mr. Full Stack. And this is the reason why some programmers fear AI so much, because it's killing specialization. You no longer need to be this mega nerd on this particular programming language because AI can do that for you. Now, I'm not saying that AI is gonna replace programmers just yet. What I want to get across is more like you as a non-programmer, how much you can actually benefit from AI. Because AI, the more powerful it gets, the more it's skilling a specialization in so many industries, and programming is one of those. Which is a big part of why I believe that becoming a powerful generalist, a polymath, is a much better approach, especially as AI is able to replace so many things that we used to do manually. Now that I'm using AI to write code for me, I've been experiencing this really cool sensation of just pure obsession with getting code to do what I want it to do. Because what is so cool about AI is that you no longer need to spend years learning to program in order to already start building useful things for yourself. Now, I've been really enjoying this process of having AI writing code for me because I get obsessed with it, right? I really get carried away. I get in this flow state, really trying to get the code to work, but also it's a whole range of emotions, right? I also feel the frustration of oh wow, I can't troubleshoot this thing. Obviously, AI helps a lot with that, but in general, it just takes me through the whole emotional range of okay, I have the idea, I'm so excited about this idea, but then you find roadblocks, obstacles in the way, and then you overcome them. And again, you feel this amazing sensation of accomplishment, which is really cool. The feeling you get after building something useful is unbeatable. And it just really blows my mind what AI can do, because I'm personally a programmer beginner. I know some stuff here and there, but if you were to give me an exam on my programming knowledge, I would completely fail it. So I'm beginner enough that I would fail any exam presented to me. But I'm also advanced enough, thanks to AI, that I can technically build anything I want with enough AI power and a good good night's sleep. Now, my main focus with AI coding is to build useful things for myself, but I'm really excited to see how this skill that I've been developing expands into building apps for others, whether that's for clients or if I want to scale it further and make some sort of commercial app that I can sell. I'm very excited about the potential of this, and even with the skills that I've gotten so far with my AI coding, I would be very curious to see what it's like to actually deploy an app, to get it out into the world so that people can download it on their phones or use it on the web or something like that. The potential I really feel is endless, which is so cool about this. Because once you try to automate something with code and you write your own code that is helpful for you, you're gonna see what is possible and you're gonna unlock such a big window of opportunity for things that you can build for yourself and automate your processes to make everything more efficient. So if this sounds interesting so far, which by the fact that you're still watching, you probably are interested, you are probably at this point curious, like, okay, what does this actually look like? So let's take a look at the two most common options that you can use. These are beginner-friendly methods, because technically you could use something like GitHub Copilot, which essentially you might stumble upon this if you get into this rabbit hole, but that is for more advanced programmers. So what I'm going to recommend to you right now is two paths. One is just using ChatGPT or something equivalent like Claude, which is really good for this, to be honest. And option number two is using some sort of AI agents. We're going to get back to this in a second. Let's just talk quickly about what does it look like to ask ChatGPT for code. So this option of asking ChatGPT to write code, even though it's more manual, I prefer it and is the one that I personally use. One of the reasons for that is because it's very cost efficient. All you need really is a subscription to, for instance, ChatGPT 4. Again, you can find any other alternatives, but I do recommend that you pay for these services, especially if you're going to want to do code. ChatGPT 4 is way better than the previous versions, like 3.5. So regardless, if you're watching this in the future and there's ChatGPT 5 or whatever, like always paying for the latest tech is going to give you much better results. So that's what I recommend. And even if you don't end up writing code, it's still a worth it subscription. So I really recommend you have one of those services. Personally, I pay for ChatGPT 4, but I'm actually debating whether I should try Claude and cancel my ChatGPT subscription. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on that if that sounds interesting. But for now, let's assume you're using ChatGPT 4. That's going to give you really good results. And you ask it to write code to achieve a particular goal that you want to do on your computer. Maybe you always wanted to have an AI grammar corrector, so you ask it to do that. Now, obviously, the question is, what do I do with this code? If you're a complete beginner, you'd be like, I don't know what this does. Like, I've heard there's a terminal thing, but like, do I put it there? What do I do? So, okay, the easiest answer is just download something called VS Code. This is one of the most popular tools to write code. And what I recommend is that you just watch a 5-minute tutorial on YouTube. You're going to find good instructions there. That's where you essentially create folders and files and you just run the code in there. You paste it there and then it has built-in ways to run the code, which is pretty nice. Depending on what type of code ChatGPT gave you, you're going to have to install different things. But what's cool about this whole process is that you can ask ChatGPT how to set up what it's asking you to set up. By the way, if you're already going to start asking it code, I do recommend that you ask it to write Python. Just because Python, in my opinion and in my experience, has been like by far the most versatile language. And usually Python by itself can be enough. But if you do want to have things that are a little bit more aesthetic, you can ask ChatGPT to create apps that work from your browser. I don't want to get into too much of a crazy tangent, but if you do need help with this or you want to understand a bit more of what I'm talking about, you can join my free community below and you can reach out to me and I can walk you through a bit more step by step on that. Okay, so now let's go to option 2. I did mention it quickly, which is called AI agents. So as much as I prefer option 1, which is just going to ChatGPT and asking to write code, sometimes troubleshooting and fixing errors might be a little bit more challenging in ChatGPT. You do need to start figuring out what are the prompts that give you the results that you want and so on. So yeah, that's always going to be the case. But if you do want something that perhaps is a little bit more beginner friendly, especially if you do feel like, oh, creating all these files and organizing all of this stuff seems quite tricky and you want a bit more guidance, AI agents can be quite helpful. So let me just explain them quickly. For this process, you will still need something like VS Code, at least if you want to make things easier for you. And to give you an example of a particular AI agent that I tried, there's one called Pythagora, which I found interesting. And there's a lot of options, but essentially what it does is that it writes the code for you, but it also is able to create the files for you. And in a lot of cases, is able to run those files as well and help you troubleshoot things further. If it stumbles upon any errors, it just kind of walks you through the process. It asks you questions based on what you want to achieve, and it just gives you feedback and it just runs AI until it reaches a particular goal of what you ask it to do. Now, because it runs so many AI calls, it's a bit more expensive. So you got to keep that in mind. The cheapest solution by far is just going to be to have a ChatGPT subscription. Yeah, because AI agents do get more expensive. So if you're interested in exploring more alternatives for these sort of tools that use AI agents to write code for you, you can essentially search for Devin alternatives. Now, what is Devin? That is the next point. This is looking a little bit more into the future, hopefully no more than a few months from recording this video, but Devin is going to be a really powerful tool that is going to open up so many opportunities and probably so many apps that are going to try to do the same. Devin is still behind a waiting list. You have to enter your email and wait for them to give you access. So right now we haven't been able to access it yet, but Devin is very exciting because what it does is essentially this sort of AI agent where you can give it instructions and it's going to ask you questions of what exactly you want to achieve, but it's able to fully run the code for you, is able to solve it by itself. And what I really like about it is that it's able to research on the internet for the right information to solve the problems that it faces, all within one simple app that just makes everything way easier for you. So until Devin is out, we're still gonna have to use something like ChatGPT to write code a bit more manually, quote unquote, or some other Devin alternative like Pythagora, or there's a bunch. But in preparation for when Devin comes out, I still think it's worth honing your skills of prompting so that you know how to communicate with AI to get the sort of things that you want. So that's where still using ChatGPT to ask it what you want is a valuable skill to develop, because you get better at communicating with AI and improving your prompting skills. Now, if you do go for the approach of using ChatGPT to help you write code, you're probably gonna end up in a rabbit hole, and you're probably gonna end up being recommended some no-code tool that makes things easier. My recommendation is that you stick with using raw code written by ChatGPT in this case. The reason for that is that there's gonna be some other tools out there, no-code tools, that make it a lot easier to drag and drop things and rearrange things. Like there's a few, and one that comes to mind is called Bubble. And tools like that I wouldn't discard if you really want to make some commercial apps straight away, because they might be helpful there. But in general, if you want to make tools for yourself and you want to understand the full extent of what's possible, I just think that using raw code and pasting that into VS Code is a much better approach, because with no-code tools, you're eventually going to find some annoying limitations, and worst of all is that they're always going to be the more expensive alternative. So to begin your process into learning AI coding, it all starts from having some sort of idea. So you need to identify a problem that you face day to day, and how can you use code to solve it, right? You ask ChatGPT, you just go there and ask it all the questions, and you will have answers, and eventually you'll have the code that you need to paste, run, and see if that solves your problem. Otherwise, you keep iterating until you do. One of the biggest benefits that I've had in this whole process is that in the past, I would go through the internet trying to find some pre-existing tool that solves the problem that I had. But after a lot of frustrating searching, I realized like, okay, it sounds like the thing that I'm trying to solve is very specific to me. I kind of need a very custom-made solution. And now that I can write code with AI, I can have those solutions, and it's way better than anything that anyone else has built because it's customized to my specific needs. Granted, unless I spend a lot of extra time, it might not look as fancy or as shiny, but if it works, it works. And yeah, if you do have some extra time, you can make things fancy and shiny, which I've spent some time doing in some projects, so it's definitely possible. AI is super powerful, but obviously it's not always going to be perfect. So as you get deeper into this rabbit hole, I do recommend an 80-20 split, where you essentially learn 20% of programming to unlock 80% of the benefits. Because then you will get better at knowing exactly what to ask out of the AI, what type of code you want to achieve. I'm not gonna say some technical jargon, but you get the idea, right? Nerdy stuff. You can know a bit of nerdy stuff so that you can get better at prompting AI to give you what you need. The question is then, of course, how do you learn programming? How do you get better at it? And again, the answer is AI. You go to ChatGPT, you ask it to write some code to solve some practical need that you actually have. You run that code, you say, wow, this is so cool. And then from there, you ask ChatGPT like, hey, can you explain a little bit more of how that works? And then you can double down on the things that you find interesting and useful, and kind of like forget the stuff that you find a bit boring or like useless. And this is how you develop that 20% of programming knowledge. At the end of the day, you know what? You can just skip the boring. I give you permission, even though some user on Reddit with the name Billy the Programmer 57 is gonna disapprove of the way that you're learning things. You can do what you want. That's the cool thing about being a grown-up. You're not in school anymore. You can learn things in the way that you want, in the way that benefits you. So that's how I do it. Now, hopefully this has already inspired you to give it a try. So I really recommend you just go to ChatGPT and start playing with code and see where it takes you. You might be like, okay, but what is the actual project that you want to create? What is a problem that you want to solve? So for this, I just think you need a strong why. I highly recommend that you have some larger project that aligns with your goals, and that is going to give you a lot of micro problems that you're going to want to solve, and code can help you solve them. Because just in general, the more real the reason you have to do something, the better results you're going to get and the more motivation you're going to have to try to solve those problems. So if you resonated with the sorts of things that I've been talking about, and like I said at the beginning, I don't really think I'm speaking to programmer beginners right now. I'm speaking to the rest of us, those of us that have ambitions to help us improve our life and reach our goals. Let me tell you what I believe to be the best application of AI code and how you can use it in the best way. So by the way, I'm not selling you anything right here. I do have a free community which you can join, but like I'm not even talking about that. I just want to share with you what I deeply believe is the best way to go about life in 2024, especially if you do want to achieve a life of freedom and you want to help your family financially and just have a better life overall, economically speaking and so on. If you haven't been paying too much attention, this is one of the best business models out there, and what I'll call it, for lack of a better term, is a knowledge influencer. This is a business model that top entrepreneurs are applying, because if you're like me, you've probably been in rabbit holes of YouTube being like, okay, what are the best business models? What are people doing? And you're going to hear a lot about drop shipping, crypto, real estate, but the people that you actually hear this advice from are not really doing those things all that much. They're actually doubling down on content creation because that's where the real money is. So let me break this down a little bit further, and I'm definitely going to go back to the main topic, which is like, how can you apply AI coding to it? But right now, let's just break down the 3 steps towards like this knowledge influencer. Okay, so step 1 is build some specific knowledge around something you care about, ideally something that you can obsess over. Then second is learn to teach the things that you know and package them in a way that others find valuable. And third is learning the marketing strategies to reach the type of person that is willing to exchange money for the value that you have to offer. In short, you get good at something, you learn how to teach that, and then you package it in a way that you can sell and others are happy to give you their hard-earned money for the value that you can give them. Or better than even saying the word value, for the problems that you can solve for them. That's a better way to approach it. And in this whole process, you're going to see so many opportunities for using AI coding to help you build workflows that help you achieve these 3 steps that I talked about. And by the way, if you're currently seeing a bit of resistance in your mind of like, I do like the idea of content creation, but I'm not sure I actually want to sell something, I invite you to question that for a second, because you already are selling something. What are you selling? Well, the thing is that we all fall under 2 categories. You are either selling your own product, or number 2, you work for someone who sells a product and you help them sell it, right? In exchange for a small commission of what they sell, also known as a salary. And you can't avoid this. You can't avoid selling things in the modern world if you want to live within society. There's no choice. So if you're gonna play the game, why not play it well? So what I really believe is you should just cut the middleman and sell things yourself. You'll see plenty of opportunities to use AI coding in helping you through that process. You can sell physical products, digital products, services. I don't recommend you do physical products, but I mean, who knows? You might be passionate about that. But especially with digital products, more specifically info products, where you teach something to someone, you will see so many opportunities of using AI to help you through that whole process. And then you can use content creation to attract the right type of people towards the ecosystem that you're building online. You find the right people that you want to serve, and they reward you with money in exchange for the problems you can solve for them. And I know what you're thinking. You're literally saying it's not that simple. And you're right, but why not start building something on the side with the free time you have available? And I know what you're gonna think next. I wish I had free time, but you don't understand how busy I am. That's what you said, right? Don't lie to me, that's what you were thinking. And fair enough, you are busy. And I apologize if what I'm about to say does sound rude to you. I mean, I'm speaking to you as if I was speaking to myself. Don't take it the wrong way, but if you say you're too busy to propel you towards your own goals, first off, you have to take personal responsibility and remember that the life that you have right now is the life that you build for yourself. So it's all your fault. It's not all your fault. There's external circumstances that you can blame, but it's always your responsibility to improve the life that you actually want to build. Now, yeah, that doesn't solve the fact that you're busy, right? But that's when I want to invite you to question, like, do you actually spend more time than you wish mindlessly scrolling social media? Boom. We just got a couple of hours back into your day. Use that to build the side projects that you care to build. And that's where you can build content around it. You can use AI code to help you build really cool workflows that you can use for yourself and share with clients and build for clients. There's like the opportunities here are massive. There's so many things you can do. And again, if you're busy, I totally understand that, right? Like anything that you build with AI code or business on the side is gonna take time, but just take one step at a time, make some progress. As slow as you might feel it is, it's gonna be way better than postponing it to start later, right? Because you've probably been thinking about doing certain projects that you've been postponing for ages. Because if in your mind, you're just thinking like, okay, any results at the pace that I can go, it's gonna take ages. But keep in mind that the time is gonna pass anyway, so you might as well start today. Great, so if it's content creation or some sort of business that you have in mind that you always wanted to execute, now you can start applying AI code within that project and you're gonna be able to unlock things that you didn't even know were possible. So I wish you best of luck. If you do need any help with this whole AI coding journey, feel free to join my free community below, and I hope to see you there. Have a great day. Bye-bye. See ya.